In late May 1940, less than a year into the Second World War, Hitler's army advanced with great speed through northern Europe, and Britain was faced with its greatest military disaster. It looked as if well over 300,000 servicemen of the British Expeditionary Force, the BEF, sent into Europe at the start of the war, could be killed or taken prisoner as they retreated towards a small French harbor at Dunkirk. A plan, codenamed Operation Dynamo, was made to rescue the troops, and at the height of this withdrawal, no one showed more courage than Captain Marcus Ervine-Andrews. He was the only serviceman to be awarded the Victoria Cross for the 9-day evacuation, and he was the Army's first VC to be announced during the 1939-45 war. On September the 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The government sent the BEF to France, but there was a period of relative calm in what was later called the Phony War. This ended when Nazi Germany invaded Denmark and Norway on April the 9th, 1940. On May the 10th, Germany launched its blitzkrieg against France and the Low Countries. From May the 15th onwards, the main British army was forced into a series of staged withdrawals towards the coast. Just before 7 p.m. on May the 26th, Churchill ordered Operation Dynamo to begin. Captain Ervine-Andrews, the son of a provincial Irish bank manager, was a career soldier, commissioned into the East Lancashire Regiment in the early 1930s. He served on the Indian Northwest frontier in 1936, where he was mentioned in dispatches. In a recording made decades later, he described his experience in France.
And we were ready to embark at Dunkirk when we were suddenly whipped up and ordered back into the line. And we went back. We had to go along and search for ammunition. And we were searching dead bodies to try and get ammunition from them.
On the evening of May the 31st and into the following morning, Captain Ervine-Andrews and the B Company were desperately trying to defend a stretch of canal 5 miles inland from Dunkirk. Their aim was to slow the German advance and give the BEF valuable time to evacuate. For more than 10 hours, under an intense artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire, and in the face of vastly superior enemy forces, they held their position.
I took on myself to do most of the firing. Even though I said myself I was an exceptionally good shot. And my men knew it, and they realized that it was much better that I should do the shooting rather than waste ammunition.
At one point, he climbed onto the top of a straw-roof barn where he fired on the enemy. A deadly shot, Captain Ervine-Andrews killed or badly wounded 17 German soldiers with first a Bren gun until that jammed, and then his rifle. All day, he managed to keep the Germans at bay, preventing them from crossing the canal. However, by 4:30 p.m., they were out of ammunition and almost surrounded. He collected the remaining 8 men of his company, and they swam or waded up to their chins in water for over a mile until they finally reached safety. On June the 2nd, the weary officer and his men managed to leave Dunkirk on board the destroyer HMS Shikari.
I had told all my men in Dunkirk itself that every man must get either a Bren gun or an anti-tank rifle to bring back to England. When we arrived at the ship side, the sailors, quite rightly, though I was furious at the time, they took all these heavy weapons and threw them over into the sea on the grounds that it was more important to have men on the ship than waste carrying excess baggage.
His Victoria Cross was announced on July the 30th, 1940, when his citation ended. Throughout this action, Captain Ervine-Andrews displayed courage, tenacity, and devotion to duty worthy of the highest traditions of the British Army. He survived the rest of the war, including battles after the D-Day landings of June 1944. Eventually, he retired from the Army in the honorary rank of Lieutenant Colonel in January 1952, aged 40. Twice married, he lived in South Cornwall until his death on March 30th, 1995, aged 83. By the end of Operation Dynamo, 338,226 men had been rescued by a hastily assembled fleet of more than 800 vessels. Winston Churchill, in his famous "We will fight them on the beaches" speech to the House of Commons on June the 4th, made reference to what became known as the miracle of Dunkirk. He had a clear message for the nation.
Sir, we must be very careful not to assign to this deliverance the attributes of a victory. Wars are not won by evacuation. But there was a victory inside this deliverance.
Whether historians decide to look upon the Dunkirk evacuation primarily as a defeat or a victory remains open for debate. What is certain, however, is that the bravery of Captain Marcus Ervine-Andrews VC in that heroic action on the outskirts of Dunkirk must never be forgotten.